At the beginning of this series, we pondered the reality of there are whys and hows. How to do this, how to do that, how to forgive, how to listen. The conference you will be watching and listening to is pretty much about how to have good sex and what are the hindrances to good sex. At the beginning of the presentation, you will notice, and I did, and I smiled at it, when people talk about sex in public, they laughed. You will hear a bit of laughter. Uncomfortable laughter. Why? What is most central to us, most interior, most intimate to ourselves is not sex. It's identity. And we don't talk much about our real identity because what is closest to us, believe it or not, what is closest to our identity, we are most likely most insecure. We are not comfortable with it because there's no way to judge it against somebody else's interior intimacy. We are really alone in our identity. So that to talk about something, outside yourself, a couple standard deviations out there, that's easier. But to talk about something intimate to you, sex is not the only intimate thing. Who you are to yourself is very intimate and very difficult about which to talk. So let's talk about sex, but the spirituality of it and the why of it. The question is climax versus commencement. Climax is an ending, and people in sexual dysfunction worry about the inability to have proper climax and how do you judge climax and all that stuff. It's unjudgeable. And it isn't, climax is an ending. Commencement is a better word for what is called good sex or wonderful marital relationships. So we're talking about a commencement, a constant beginning, facing our own insecurities. Are we good at this? So then it comes down to, and we'll talk about it, that the sexual experience can be ecstatic, ecstasy. Ecstasy comes from the Latin word meaning standing outside. Standing outside. For a while in the sexual experience, one may go out of his or her reality into another experience of the reality. But then it is that ecstasy brings us back to the reality. And I think that's where, in a strange way, I think that's where intercourse, sexual intercourse, really gets its meaning. And it's real sacramentality. After you almost are God for one another, to take you outside your reality. The question is, did I give myself to you? And did you give yourself to me? No. After the genital action of sexual penetration, there is a physical deflation. The male penis declines. The instrument of most power is diminished. And there's a Latin phrase, meaning after coitus, after intercourse, there's a sadness, a triste. Why? Because I'm back in my reality, and my ecstatic self is more delightful, more surprising. No, the question is, how does each of you help live with the post-coitus, the deflation? You were almost God for one another, and now you are returned to that you're not God. What the female gives to the male is, I gave you, I am giving you, I want to give you your experience of what you are as male. And the male says, and I want to affirm and celebrate that you are a female human being. But we live our constant commencement, so that every physical act, foreplay and gentleness and penetration, it's how are you with each other's inability to be God for each other? How are you living that sexual experience? So, in a way, sex isn't something you do. You don't do sex. You have a sex. You have a genital function and apparatus, if you will. But that's not all who you are. But to live sexually is to live your maleness as affirmed by the female. And the female is affirmed. I helped you experience one part of your being male. I helped you experience one part of being female and celebrated it. But I don't use you, so I experience my sexual genital apparatus. I help us be even more, in a way, sexual. That is, personally influenced by the fact that I'm a male or a female. So it's not genitally, it's generatively. I am generating you. Remember way back at the beginning, we talked that your dignity is that you are assisting God in creating each other. And part of sex is the creation, perhaps and hopefully for children, but the continuation of the birth of the adult that is in each of you, each of us. We would like to be God for one another. We can only take each other to the threshold and say that ecstasy is temporary. It's a hint at what will be. But we are here walking this earth as human beings, so that our generativity is not just genital, but it is sexual. I want to generate you as my wife. I want to generate you having new experiences of what is it to be a woman. Genital is only part. So expressing one's self physically, yes. Spiritually, yes. And to overemphasize one against the other is to work for destruction. If it's only genital, if it's only physical, you're missing a large part of the other. And that's what we long for. Someone to help me live my real life, really who I am. I need someone expressing love that creates me, not uncreates me, not destroys me. So the sacrament of marriage is a sexual, physical, spiritual, graceful experience. The fruitfulness of intimacy is how you live with each other's humanity after you blessed that humanity by being intimate with that about which we are most insecure. How am I sexually? How am I at my deepest part of myself? How am I doing? I have no idea. So that the mutuality is between two insecure. You can be powerful and gifted and everything, but way deep inside, where you're really intimate with yourself, does the other help you live with what's real? Yes, sex is real. Interaction is real. Interpenetration is real, yes. But there's a deeper reality that needs to be penetrated, and you invite the other to live with the reality about which you are most insecure, which is not sex, it's identity. God created us to be creators. Sex is a beautiful, physical genital sex is a beautiful way to experience what God is doing all the time, creating us from our interior to our exterior. Good sex is who you are. It's not what you do.